Good morning, students. Welcome. This is Mr. Charles, and I'll be with you for the IGCSE online session number 8. Unit 6, Living in a Material World. Please go to page 135 and let's discuss the expressions on top. Do you know these English expressions? What do they really mean? Which one seems the oddest or sounds the oddest? You may pause now, or you may try to guess as we move forward. A penny wise and a pound foolish. So someone is wise with a penny and foolish with a pound. More or less, this means you are economical in small amounts or small matters, while being wasteful in large ones, while wasting money when you have larger quantities. Second one, you look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves. So you look after with a smaller amounts and they will build up, they will accumulate themselves to be bigger amounts, and these bigger amounts will steady hold. So if someone takes care not to waste small amounts of money, they will accumulate larger quantities. In for a penny, in for a pound. You are down to get the penny and you're down to get the pound. So you are down to get the small and the large quantities. So once you start with small business, don't stop before you get the big profit. Your answers again don't have to be exactly the same, but more or less roam around the same idea. He's a penny dreadful, or this is a penny dreadful. This is used when we have a cheap publication, whether it is a book or a TV show, series, a movie. We call it Penny Dreadful, and there's actually a series called Penny Dreadful airing in Britain. This when a cheap publication containing melodrama written in a colorful and down market style. So a cheap imitation of something or a cheap publication of an idea through a book or a drama or, as we said, a movie. Hard cash and flexible finance. Categorizing information. Page 136 and 37. First of all, we have to establish 2 points. The types of currency that there are. We have something called commodity money, where money that is money whose value comes from a commodity it is from. For example, a piece of silver. So if you have a piece of silver, this piece of silver is a type of currency. If you have a piece of vase, if you have a piece of shoes, if you have any item, it is valuable in itself. Its value is itself. Contrast this with fiat money, the money that is prevailing nowadays. That is, the value comes from the bank or the government deciding its value. What gives value to this Iraqi dinar we are holding, or to the dollar that we hold, is that the bank says it is valuable. But in itself, it's just a piece of paper. You can fold it, you can throw it away, you can burn it. But in America, burning the dollar leads you to jail. But if you burn it, you would lose nothing. This money, this value, or this piece's value, the fiat money's value, is determined by how the bank says the value is. But if you hold a piece of silver, let's say, or a piece of gold, well, this is valuable in itself. You're not holding paper, you're holding a precious metal. Now that we have established that, we need to read all these 20. And they are 20 points or 20 pieces of information. We need to separate them 10 on the history of money and 10 on the history of credit, flexible finance. Anything that is not hard cash, that is credit money. Wampum, A, Wampum is an Algonquian word for cylindrical beads threaded together to form short strings, necklaces, or belts. So wampum, go to the bottom of page 137. It is a small cylindrical beads made by North American Indians. The Algonquin, these are the North American Indians that lived, I think, lived in Canada near Ottawa, and it is from shells strung together and worn as decoration or used as money strings. So this was a form of money. This was a form of hard cash. That's why this is on the history of money. B. Notes from less than £50 were not available in 1696, since the average income in Britain during the 17th century was well under £20 a year. Very few people needed banknotes. Again, this is a paper that the bank determines its value. So this is not hard cash. This is credit. C. Paper money evolved into representative money. This meant that the money itself was not made of anything that was actually of any value. It represented value. As we said, the dollar does not, it's just a piece of paper, does not equal anything but a piece of silver or gold that supposedly the federal bank in America has. So it equals something, it represents value, not value in itself. For our question, this is on the history of credit. D. Wampum was firmly established as a currency for exchange when Europeans established colonial settlements in North America. So when Europeans colonized America, or North America, they established this wampum as a form of currency, a form of hard cash, if you may. So this is related to money. In the 16th century, goldsmith bankers accepted deposits, made loans, and transferred funds. They also gave receipts for cash, known as running cash notes. Again, the note you are holding, this is history of credit. The note you're holding values nothing in itself. It represents value. The Banque Générale in Paris issued banknotes from January 1719, but a government decree in May 1720 halved the value of this paper currency, so people lost faith in the system. You guessed it right, this is on the history of credit. Wampum was so well respected that a wampum belt formed sealed agreements and solemnized formal speeches and meetings. This was such a trusted type of currency that it sealed agreements between parties and it solemnized formal speeches and meetings. This is on the history of money. As we said, wampum equaled back then hard cash. In 118 BC, leather money was being used in China. It was made from deerskin and had colorful borders. It could be considered as the first form of banknote. Again, history of credit. This leather that you have is not valuable. It's valuable because the Bank of China had that leather. So this paper that it says it is equal to this amount of leather is not valuable in itself. It represents the value that the Chinese bank had. Indians and old established colonizers tried to pass off inferior shells as fraudulent wampum. To new arrivals, legislation was introduced to prevent this. So Indians and old colonizers tried to make the inferior shells, the shells or the type of currency that was used that was less valuable than the ones they had, tried to introduce it to the new arrivals as a wampum. So they tried to print out or to make out fake money, fake currency. And then legislation came, that is a set of laws to prevent that from happening, to prevent such fraudulent. This is on the history of money. Wampum, wherever wampum exists in our questions, it is a part of money, history of money. Representative money was backed by a government's or a bank's promise to exchange it for a certain quantity of silver or gold. The British pound, known as the pound sterling, was the equivalent of a pound of sterling silver. What does that mean? A sterling is a silver quantity that, or a silver, if you call it mixture or fusion, that is not purely silver. It is usually around 92% of silver and then other metals. So you had a note that says you own a pound of sterling that is equivalent to a purely silver sterling with the British Bank. Again, you don't have hard cash. You don't have something valuable in itself. You have something that is represented as valuable by the real thing with the British Bank. Barter, we've taken this verb before, that is the exchange of goods and services. A sack of rice for a sack of salt. A day working in the field for a day building an irrigation canal. So this is definitely on the history of money because this equaled hard cash. You give me a bag of rice that is valuable to me, I can eat it. I assume we cannot eat a $100 pill, right? You give me a bag of rice that is valuable to me, I give you, let's say, a bag of salt. And if you remember, we've taken before that salt used to be currency. Paper money was first printed in the USA on the 10th of March 1862. Paper money. This is a caricature of the paper money. But the picture you see, again, worthless. Its worthiness is at the bank. So, history of credit. Sometimes people could not agree on the equal value of goods and services. So, commodity money was used to solve this problem. Commodity money is the basic item used or of value to everyone. So, they agreed that the value of a bag of rice is this much, or the value of a, let's say, a kilo of oranges is this much. This is equal to hard cash. This is the history of money. Metal objects were used as money around 5000 BC. Metal is used because it is easy to work, durable, and can be recycled. So, if, let's say I needed my, let's say, a cupboard built in my house, I would bring a carpenter and I would pay him, let's say, one pole of metal. This is your day's salary. This is the history of money, hard cash, the equivalence of hard cash. The first recorded use of paper money was in the 7th century China. You guessed it, history of credit. Different coins were given different values so people could know or negotiate the price of what they wanted to buy. Imagine the bills that we have now, the notes that we have now, the, let's say, 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, 25,000 Iraqi dinar are coins. And they are of different quantities, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. They're not all the same. of different quantities because we may want to buy different things to make things vary in value. This is history of money. In 1656, John Palmstruck established a private bank in Stockholm. In 1661, he issued credit notes that could be exchanged in his bank for a stated number of silver coins. So he gave you a note that said, or a piece of paper that said, this paper is equal to, let's say, 10 pieces of silver. And this existed with this bank or any other bank. This paper coin method existed because people did not want to carry or did not fancy to carry or could not carry the whole time um, so much or so many silver coins or golden coins. So they took representatives of them and gave these silver coins to a bank, the Stockholm Bank, the British Bank, the Federal Bank. Balmstruck issued more notes than this bank could afford to redeem. So he gave more papers of or more than the actual silver he had. That's why in 1676 or 67, sorry, he was imprisoned for fraud. So you go back to him and say, I have a note from your bank that says this is worth 10, let's say, pieces of silver. He would tell you, I don't have any. History of credit. As far back as 1200 BC, cowrie shells from the Pacific and the Indian Oceans were being used by many societies as currency. The cowrie shell is the most widely used and long standing form of currency in the world. Imagine a cowrie shell. People used to exchange it among each other as currency. This is a form of commodity money, so history of kind of hard cash. The feature that made Bank of England notes a means of exchange was the promise to pay the bearer on demand. This sentence he put in quotation marks because it is written on the note that the bank issued. The same sum indicated on the note. This meant that whoever presented that note at the bank could redeem it for golden coins. So the note that was given to, let's say, X did not say that this note represents, let's say, 10 coins of silver solely for X. La, it said it is for any bearer of this note. That's why anybody could go to the bank and exchange it for the amount of silver it is stated on it. History of credit. The final one, wampum was the standard legal tender of Indians and New England colonists until the end of the 17th century. So they kept using this wampum. Indians and the New England colonists, the native citizens and the colonizers, they kept using this wampum, this strength of beads, until the end of the 17th century. This is definitely history of money. I want you to, after you've seen the attached links to the pacing chart, I want you to try and write your notes on the giving a talk on money, the green square at the bottom of page 137, questions 1 and 2 and 3. I know it states that it should be with a pair, but try to give me your ideas, what you think about ordering these pieces of information in as much of a chronological order as you can. And try to put them in a piece of paragraph while chopping unnecessary words or phrases. Basically, we could do only 1 and 2. No need for 3. Just 1 and 2. Try to solve them, and we'll discuss them in the next session. We're done for today. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and keep up the good work.